Good morning. During the first weeks of Lent, at this point in the service, we've heard from those who are directly involved in the events leading up to Jesus' arrival in Jerusalem for the Passover and for his Passion. First, we heard from Simon Peter, and then Mary Magdalene, and last week from Lazarus. And we heard that the very good news for Lazarus was very bad news for the Jewish religious leaders. And so, an emergency meeting of the Jewish High Council, or the Sanhedrin, was quickly called by order of the moderator of the council, Caiaphas, the high priest. Today, Caiaphas, the high priest, will address us as members of the Sanhedrin, allowing us to be also part of the drama that unfolded that day. So now I present to you Caiaphas, the high priest.
Fellow members of the Sanhedrin, our nation's highest council, I stand before you as your high priest. You all know me. I have led you and led this troubled nation for the last 15 years. Since the days when Herod was king, no one has worn the ephod longer than I. And you know my family. Both my father-in-law, Annas, and my brother-in-law have worn the robes of the high priest before me. It was my father-in-law who dealt with the first of the Roman prefects, and you know how I have managed our relationship with Pontius Pilate too. For the last 27 years, we have walked this tightrope, and we have kept the peace. But my friends, that peace is threatened. You know how, in the past, the least hint of unrest, the least whisper of nationalism has brought the legions of Rome down upon us. The civil war of the last century brought the Roman general Pompey not just into our country, not just into Jerusalem, rather in defilement of all that is holy, he entered into the temple itself. And it was the legions of Rome that put Herod on the throne. And it was Varus, the governor of Syria, marching into the chaos after Herod died, who carved up the land between Herod's heirs and butchered anyone who stood in his way. And then, when Herod's son's heavy-handed blundering got him exiled, Quirinius came and imposed that census, counted us like beans. And ever since, it has not been one of our own who has governed us, but always some Roman down in Caesarea. And it'll happen again. You mark my words. If we don't get this situation reined in and the people settled down, then Pilate won't just come with a cohort of troops when he arrives for Passover. No, he will bring the legions. And he won't just walk into the Holy of Holies to have a quick peek as Pompey did. He will destroy it. He will level it. He will tear the whole thing down. If we let this go on, the Romans will come and destroy both our holy place and our nation. And my friends, it is the temple that's threatened by this Jesus of Nazareth. We've all heard what he's said, how he's going to replace the temple, the place where the glory of the Lord tabernacles among us. and build a new one in 3 days. 3 days! When it took Herod and all his wealth and all his power 8 years to do the job. And you've heard how he's challenged our administration of the temple, claiming that we have turned this house of prayer into a den of thieves. As if anyone from Galilee could understand even a fraction of what it takes to oversee this place, to ensure that all the prescribed sacrifices are offered, let alone making sure that there are sufficient animals for all of those who keep flooding into the city at Passover. He simply has no idea how important this place is to the economy. And he treats us like children. Our esteemed brother Nicodemus has told us how he was ridiculed as a teacher of Israel for not understanding what Jesus was saying. And then was told that he needed to be born again, not just go back to school, but go back to the very beginning. He calls us glory seekers and lawbreakers. He claims that if we really believed Moses, we would also believe him. And yet he's the one who repeatedly breaks the Sabbath, eats with the unclean, and pardons sinners as if he has any right. He stands up in the temple precincts to teach, exciting the mob, riling up the people, acting as though to question his teaching is to question the Almighty himself. And yet he has no more schooling than they do. No sophistication at all. He calls himself bread from heaven and light of the world. And then he has the nerve to call us children of the devil. And yet he says that his own Father is the Almighty, and that he and his Father are one. He's making himself equal to the Eternal One, I tell you. It is bold-faced blasphemy and nothing less. And now, the people are saying that you and I know that he's the Messiah. And that's why we've done nothing to stop him, that maybe we can't do anything to stop him, that we're powerless against him. And honestly, how many times have we tried and failed? It's pathetic. Our own temple police can't be trusted to carry out a simple warrant of arrest. But that stops now. It can't go on any longer. If we don't get on top of this incident in Bethany, the whole nation will soon be following him. I trust you've all heard what's being reported. They're saying that Lazarus of Bethany has been raised from the dead, or some fool nonsense like that. Now, I know Lazarus. One time, I even liked Lazarus. Many of you know him and his family as well, but I have no idea why or how he's got himself involved in this craziness. And it's not just him, it's his sisters too. And I'm not sure just what's going on here. Whether the one who now claims to be Lazarus is an impostor, or whether his death was some kind of elaborate hoax, or whether there's actually some infernal power at work here. But there is simply no way that this is from God. Now, I know we don't all agree about the resurrection. We of the Sadducees believe that the Lord's rewards and punishments are all experienced in this life, while you of the Pharisees believe that the Almighty will restore life to the body for good or for ill in the last day. But not since the days of the prophets Elijah and Elisha has anyone suggested that the dead might be brought back to life now. There's no way that things like that still happen today. And certainly not in response to the prayers of some false Messiah like Jesus. It can't be real. And even if it is, even if Lazarus really did die and come back, we can't allow this to stand. You know how the people are. They're already talking about Jesus as if he's a new Moses, feeding the people with food conjured out of the air. If they come to see him as a new Elijah as well, there'll simply be no stopping him. If we let him go on like this, everyone will believe in him. He'll have himself proclaimed king in no time. They will welcome him into Jerusalem like a conquering hero. And make no mistake about it, that's when the Romans will come. My friends, this resurrected Lazarus is a problem. And honestly, we may need to do something about him as well. But right now, today, we need a plan for dealing with Jesus. And not just some press release or edict denouncing him. If you think that will do the trick, you are fools. The people's sympathies are too much with him already. No, we need to remove him permanently. Now, chances are that he will be here for Passover. There's no way that he'll be able to resist the crowds. But as far as I'm concerned, we need to deal with him before that. If we arrest him during the festival, there will be a riot for sure. No, we need to find him soon. So here's what we do. We put the word out that we are looking for him, that there might even be some money in it for anyone with information. Say, a month's wages, 30 pieces of silver. We let the people draw what conclusions they will, but of this I am certain: we can count on the power of greed. Someone will want what we can offer. And once we know where he is, or at least where he's going to be, we act. No more hesitation. No delay. If we need to get the Romans involved, we do so. After all, it is in their best interests to nip this thing in the bud as much as ours. In fact, it might be best to have Pilate look after this. Forget the blasphemy charges. Present this Jesus to Pilate as some kind of would-be king, a rival to Caesar, a rabble-rouser, a rebel. That'll do it. But one way or another, this Jesus has to die. We either destroy him or the whole nation will go up in flames. You know, I've heard it said that this Jesus has claimed that he would give his life as a ransom for many. Well, as far as I'm concerned, we let him. Better by far to have one man die than see the whole nation destroyed. If he wants to die in the place of others, then more power to him. A Roman cross is where he belongs. If he dies in the place of others, it'll be the best thing he ever did.
The Apostle John tells us that Caiaphas did not say this on his own, but being high priest that year, he prophesied that Jesus was about to die for the nation, and not for the nation only, but for all of us, the dispersed children of God. John says, all those of every race and nation who would receive Jesus, who would believe in his name. And Caiaphas was right. The greatest thing that Jesus ever did, his greatest gift to us, is that he took our place. And today you and I should be encouraged, because if God could speak through someone like Caiaphas, who thought that Jesus was better off dead, how much more might he use people like us who know that even today Jesus lives. Amen.